Hi everyone, welcome back to the Holy Hype podcast. Today we're going to be talking about what influences our thoughts, and we're going to look at this through a biblical perspective on what should be influencing our thoughts. And just for a little background on me, I'm 36 years old now. So I was born in 1988. And I feel like I'm part of that last generation to really grow up with an actual childhood apart from technology before technology really took over. I think I got my first cell phone when I was like 15 years old, and we had like a family computer when I was younger, but technology now is so different from what it was when I was a kid. And so I'm really thankful that I grew up and had like an actual childhood, because I feel like so many kids today are just so consumed with YouTube and social media, and we see the result of that in the decline in mental health, unfortunately, in a lot of the youth. But these things are also important for us as adults to consider in what we're consuming with our eyes and ears. So I wanted to talk about this, and because our thought life is very important, and it's influenced by the things outside of us, the things that we see and hear. And we have so much access to media. Like, you're listening to me either on a podcast or on YouTube. There's probably a million different ways you could be watching or listening to this right now. There's just so much media out there. And I think that the things that we choose to consume are extremely important. So one thing that can influence our thought life is obviously not just media, but the people that we surround ourselves with. I think that as Christians, it's important for our close circle to be fellow Christians. I have been praying for close Christian friends for a long time, years even, since I moved to this new town from where I grew up. I've been wanting some close Christian friends because I can build relationships with people who are not believers. But I think having the same worldview and the same priorities as my friends is very important and impactful when you're trying to build relationships, and also just to get through life. Like, God gave us community, and He gave us the church so that we can build these relationships and build each other up. Iron sharpens iron, right? And we all know the verse that says, do not be unequally yoked. Like, do not yoke yourself with unbelievers, because you're going to be pulling a yoke together but going towards different goals, and you're not going to be efficient that way. So I think that applies to friendship as well. And I am so glad to say that the Lord answered my prayers recently and has given me a bunch of Christian friends, so much so that, and this is just God answering prayers so abundantly, that with summer now here, I was sad that I was going to miss like my Bible studies and just meeting up with these friends through the summer. And I just had FOMO, fear of missing out. And then I was thinking, like, God put this thought in my mind that I should be so thankful that I have these people to miss now and these events that I'm going to miss, and I'm sad about it. But before, I didn't have that, I was praying to have these people and this community in my life, and now He's answered that prayer, and I'm sad that I'm going to miss a few things here and there. But I'm just really grateful that He answered that prayer. So if you're looking for Christian friends, or you desire that community, maybe I'll do an episode about this, because I've been through it. Trust me. There are a couple things you can do. One, go to events at your church, join Bible studies. Don't just sit there and then leave on Sundays. Get involved. Get your hands dirty. Go to retreats, go to small groups, whatever you can. Go do it, because that's where you're going to meet people and meet like-minded people if you go to like a good Bible-believing church. And another thing is just really pray about it, because the Lord hears our prayers and He wants good things for us. But He wants us to come to Him too. So don't neglect that. And another thing when it comes to prayer is write it down, because now I can look at my prayers. Like in my prayer journal, I specifically asked for friends in my town who are my age and who are Christians. And that's exactly what the Lord provided. So now I can actually show them that same page that I wrote down and say, hey, you are the answer to this prayer. And that's just really cool. So the people around us really influence us. And that's not to say that you shouldn't have acquaintances and friends even who are non-believers, because we are also called to be light in the world, and we can't do that if we're hiding, right? But I think that the people that you seek advice from should be believers, because they're going to point you back to God. There's so many, like, you see this happen all the time where, like, for example, a woman will be having trouble in her marriage, and she'll go to her friends or her coworkers and say, this and that happened, and this is what's going on. And they'll get advice, or even from like a therapist, they'll get advice that's like, well, just take care of yourself. Like, forget him. He doesn't deserve you, blah, blah, blah. It's all about me, you know? It's worldly advice. Whereas a Christian believing friend would point you back to Christ and say, like, this is what true biblical marriage looks like. This is what submission looks like as a wife. This is what God has given us as a model for marriage. And so I think that that's very important, having the same worldview as your friends, because the advice that they give you is going to vary greatly based on their worldview. So the people around you are definitely going to influence the way that you think. Another big thing, and this is what I kind of started talking about in the beginning of this episode, is media. Oh my goodness, you guys. Let me tell you. I wrote down this question because this popped into my head the other day and I thought it was funny. What would your phone say about you if it could talk? Like, if my phone could talk to you guys right now, what would it tell you about me? How, like, what consumes my thoughts? What videos do I watch on this thing? What do I talk to my friends about on my phone? Like, our phones know so much about us, which is kind of scary to think about. But I wrote down my search history from like the last week or so, just because I thought it would be funny to share with you guys the things that pop in my head that I Google, right? So I'm just going to share some of them with you. This is my search history, okay? Theophany, just the word. Broccoli chicken Alfredo recipe. Christian camp crafts, because I'm in charge of crafts this year at church camp. Dorf on golf. If you don't know what that is, it's okay. Simon Birch cast. Dance Dance Revolution. Baseball pants. Leptospirosis. Pickleball rules. And can you put lemon juice into a cast iron skillet? So that's just a little bit of what goes on in my head. Movies, Dance Dance Revolution. If you don't know what that is, it's probably one of the most fun games ever. Recently started playing pickleball with my husband again, so we needed to know the rules. You know, just general life stuff. But take a look at your search history, and it'll tell you a bit about like what you wonder about, what goes on in your head. I had a lot of verses I looked up as well. So when it comes to the things that we consume, obviously media is a huge part of that, right? We spend so much time on our screens. You can even look at your screen time on your phone. It can be scary. If you've never looked before, don't hide from it. Take a look. Go look right now. It can be pretty jarring when you see how much time and how many times you just pick up your phone during the day just to look at it, just to do this. I don't know why I'm doing that. My phone's right here. Just to do this. And then the screen turns on. It counts how many times you do that. But that's very telling, because when we look at things and we hear things, it gets into our mind. So the things that I'm doing with this are very impactful in my mind, and then the things in my mind manifest themselves in my actions and thoughts and words to others as well. Let's look at Psalm 19:14. It says, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer." What is the meditation of your heart? What are the things that your heart is constantly thinking about? Is it constantly thinking about the Lord and his glory and your church community and like good, positive things? How much you love your dogs and are thankful for them? Like, I think about my dogs a lot. But the things that we set our mind on really matter. Like, what are we constantly thinking about? That is very telling as to what's going on in our heads and our hearts. And the words of my mouth, the things that we say matter. We want the words of our mouth to be pleasing to the Lord. That's why there's so many verses in the Bible that talk about taming the tongue and being in control of your tongue. If you have no control over your tongue, you have no self-control over your tongue, that's a problem. what's that? It's a proverb that says like the tongue is a restless evil or something, and that death and life is in the power of the tongue. It's just really important to be in control of what we say and the things that we're thinking about as well. And then 2 Corinthians 10:5, I wanted to read this as well. It says, "We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ." We're to be very intentional about the things that we think about and the things that we say, and we take those thoughts captive to Christ. And I always thought about this like junk food. If you consume candy and sugar and preservatives and just junk, Doritos and Swedish fish all day long, you are going to become junk. Like your body will be junk. You need to eat healthy foods and then your body will respond, right? When we eat junk food, you are what you eat. And the same applies to the things that we consume with our eyes and ears, the things that we let inside our minds. So if I'm consuming junk, like let me give you a couple examples of shows I've watched that really influenced the way I think in a negative way. So one was Grey's Anatomy. I used to watch Grey's Anatomy a lot. Like I was watching the whole show, and I tried to finish the show a couple times. Never made it through because I always realized that the show just makes me feel very down, and it also kind of turns me into a hypochondriac. So if you don't know what Grey's Anatomy is, it's a show about surgeons in a hospital. And it's like a drama, so there's a lot going on there. But the show, like every episode, there's a new problem, a new disease, a new sickness. And I don't know why, but it just really made me wonder, like, do I have this? Like, am I getting sick? Am I going to get cancer? Like, those thoughts would just enter my mind a lot more than if I wasn't watching the show. And what was the other one? Oh, This Is Us. Okay, if you guys haven't seen This Is Us, it's a really good show as far as, like, the quality and just the family in it. I mean, I like the show. But again, I noticed that it just made me feel really sad. And those feelings would carry with me throughout the day. And I don't know if that's just because I'm a very emotive person and a very empathetic person. Or if my husband makes fun of me sometimes because I tell him I like to feel feelings. Like I like to watch a movie where I can really feel a lot of feelings. Because when I see someone going through something on screen, I can feel those feelings within myself. In fact, my sister was here the other day, and she was talking about how when I was a kid, I used to watch Dumbo and The Land Before Time and just sit there and cry, and then I'd want to watch it again. Because I just love feeling feelings, even if they're sad feelings. I just like the whole spectrum of human emotions, and I like to feel other people's feelings, and maybe you're the same way. But those two shows just really made me feel sad. And it carried on throughout the day. Like I couldn't shut it off. Once I stopped the show, I was still thinking about it. So even though the shows themselves might not have necessarily been bad, the feelings that they brought up in me and the thoughts that I was having were not good. And they also weren't glorifying to God. Like what was that doing for me and for the kingdom? Nothing really. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't watch things just out of enjoyment. Like I love The Office. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. But that doesn't make me feel depressed, So that's just to say, be careful about what you're consuming, even if it doesn't seem bad on the surface. If you then shut the TV off and you feel down or it's making you question things in your own life, like if you're watching a show where there's like a problem in a family or a marital problem, and then you turn it off and you look at your husband and think like, oh, I wish he was like this guy, or I wish our marriage was like that. That's not good, right? And I think that can happen a lot also with social media and Instagram, where you see all of these like picture perfect people, you see the highlights of their life, and you might envy that or covet that, and it brings up all of these negative emotions that are bad for us. Let's see what we should be thinking about, because I think that everybody should know this verse when it comes to our thought life, because it tells us what we need to be thinking about. So this is Philippians 4, verse 8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Not things that are negative, not things that are evil. Oh, like I used to love watching scary movies, but I just can't anymore because it's like, what's the point? Why am I filling my mind with all of this negativity? So even though something might not seem bad on the surface, you need to examine how it is affecting your thought life and your heart. Another thing that I've noticed can happen, and this happened to me, and this, I'm going to tell you guys exactly what happened because I see this happen with people I know as well, is when you become obsessed with a topic. And the topic on the surface might not be a bad topic. But what happens with these social media outlets, platforms, is that they will continue to suggest things that you spend time on because the currency now is attention. However much time you can spend on Instagram, the better. So they'll try to show you content they think you're going to watch over and over, even if it's not good. But there can be good topics that you just spend too much time thinking about. And I'll give you an example. I'm a stepmother, okay? Stepmothering, I think like any parenting, it can be a challenge sometimes. Just like being a mom or a dad, being a stepmom has its own sets of challenges. And so there was a time where I was looking and reading about and consuming a lot of content about being a step parent. And I noticed that it gave me this negative view of being a step parent, and it would influence the way my mind was processing everything. So rather than it helping me, I noticed that it was just making me feel bad. And I'm glad I realized that because I think we can fall into that trap, especially if like you're having trouble with something and then you read something that like verifies what you're feeling, and then you kind of go into that whole rabbit hole of like, yes, this is how I feel and these people agree with me, and then you go down that rabbit hole of negativity, and it's just not good. And I think that can happen with anything, with politics. I'm at the age now where I see a lot of parenting posts because I think people my age who I follow or follow me share a lot of parenting stuff. And there's so many different parenting philosophies out there. It's bananas. And people will share that. And certain people, you can see it's like all that they think about is just telling you what their view of parenting is and what the right type of parenting is. And it's like, it's not healthy for those things to consume 100% of your thoughts, whether it's that or politics. Like, government was instituted by God. It's important. It's important for us to think about, but it shouldn't be the only thing that you think about. And the way that you view the rest of the world is just through that one topic. Like, you see everybody based on what they think about this political issue. You know what I mean? It's really important for us to take note of the lenses that we view life through and whether or not that's affected by what we're constantly viewing on social media. So it's important to take inventory of what we consume. Let's read Matthew 6:21 just to close out my thoughts here. It says, "For wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So whatever I'm thinking about, whatever I'm putting my time and effort into, whether that's doing something or consuming things, that is where my heart is going to be. And our heart should be focused on the Lord and the things of the Lord and eternity. And I know it's so easy to get caught up in like the temporal things of this world, but our mind should be on God and on his kingdom and on his people. And I don't know what's going to happen with technology and with the access we have to everything. It's kind of scary to see where this is going to go, but God's in control, and in the end, the world will be restored to its original order. But just take note of where you're spending your time and energy as far as media goes, because the things that we consume really influence the way that we interact with the world and with the people in it. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know down below if you look at your search history, or leave me a comment somewhere. And don't forget, we have a Patreon community. If you want to get close to some people who really have the same mindset, who have the same priorities and want to grow closer to the Lord and learn more about the Bible, join our Patreon community. It's patreon.com/holyhype. And I'll see you in the next episode. Stay blessed. Bye.